In the year 180 AD, the most powerful man on earth lay dying in a military camp along the Danube River. He had commanded legions. He had ruled an empire of 60 million souls. He had wealth beyond measure. And in his final moments, Marcus Aurelius turned to his grieving attendants and said simply, "Go to the rising sun. I am already setting. No grand speeches, no desperate clinging. Just quiet acceptance from a man who had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. He was 60 years old. He had been emperor for 19 years. And the private journal he left behind, never meant for publication, would become one of the most influential philosophical texts in human history. We call it Meditations. But here is what strikes me most. Marcus Aurelius did not write philosophy in a library. He wrote it in a tent, surrounded by plague, war, and betrayal. He wrote it not to teach others, but to remind himself, to steady his own mind when everything around him was chaos. And that is precisely why his words cut so deep today, because we have forgotten them. We live in an age of infinite distraction, instant gratification, and perpetual anxiety. We have more comfort than any generation before us, yet we are drowning in unhappiness. We have access to all human knowledge in our pockets, yet wisdom eludes us. Marcus Aurelius saw this coming. Not the technology, but the human condition beneath it. The restlessness, the grasping, the fear. He spent 20 years on the throne wrestling with the same demons we face now. And he left us a map. 4 lessons the modern world has forgotten. The first lesson is about control. Marcus wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the dichotomy of control. The Stoics divided all things in life into 2 categories, things within your control and things outside of it. Your thoughts, your choices, your responses. These belong to you. Everything else, other people's opinions, the economy, the weather, the past, the future. These do not. Simple to understand, almost impossible to practice. We spend our lives raging at traffic, obsessing over what someone said about us, refreshing news feeds as if watching the chaos will somehow let us control it. We pour our energy into the uncontrollable and then wonder why we feel so powerless. Marcus faced this constantly. He could not control the plague that killed millions in his empire. He could not control the Germanic tribes that threatened his borders. He could not control the fact that his own co-emperor, the man he shared power with, was a reckless fool. But he could control his response. He could choose patience over anger. He could choose action over despair. He could choose to do the work in front of him, regardless of outcome. "Never let the future disturb you," he wrote. "You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." This is not passive acceptance. This is strategic focus. You cannot steer a ship by yelling at the wind. You steer it by adjusting the sails. The modern world has taught us to monitor everything and control nothing. Marcus teaches the opposite. Control what you can, release what you cannot, and know the difference. The second lesson is about ego. Marcus was, by any measure, the most important person alive. He could have anything. He could command anyone. Flattery surrounded him like oxygen. And yet he wrote to himself, "Never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect." He constantly reminded himself that he was just a man. Flesh and blood. Temporary. Alexander the Great and his mule driver both died, and the same thing happened to both. Ego is seductive because it tells us we are special, that the rules do not apply to us, that our success is entirely our own doing and our failures are someone else's fault. But ego is a wall between you and reality. It stops you from learning because you already think you know. It stops you from connecting because you are too busy performing. It stops you from growing because growth requires admitting you are incomplete. Marcus surrounded himself with advisors who would tell him the truth, even when it was uncomfortable. He read philosophy that challenged him. He treated servants and senators with equal respect. "Receive without pride," he wrote. "Let go without attachment." The modern world worships ego. We build personal brands. We curate highlight reels. We measure our worth in followers and likes. And we are lonelier and more insecure than ever. Marcus understood that true confidence does not come from believing you are better than others. It comes from knowing who you are and being at peace with it. That requires killing your ego daily. The third lesson is about adversity. Marcus wrote perhaps the most powerful reframe in philosophical history. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Read that again. What stands in the way becomes the way. Every obstacle you face is not blocking your path. It is your path. The setback is the training ground. The rejection is the redirection. The failure is the data. This is not toxic positivity. This is not pretending that hardship is pleasant. Marcus lost multiple children. He watched friends betray him. He spent years away from home fighting wars he never wanted. He did not pretend these things felt good. He chose to use them. When plague struck Rome, he did not complain about fate. He organized relief efforts. When his general rebelled against him, he did not waste time on bitterness. He prepared a military response and offered clemency. When his own health began to fail, he did not rage against mortality. He wrote about it with clear eyes. A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it, he wrote. This is the choice we face daily. Will you let circumstances consume you, or will you consume them? Will obstacles break you, or build you? The modern world tells us we deserve easy. That difficulty is unfair, that if things are hard, something is wrong. Marcus tells us the opposite. Difficulty is the point. Resistance is how we grow. The obstacle is the way. The fourth lesson is about mortality. Memento mori. Remember that you will die. This sounds morbid. It is actually liberating. Marcus wrote, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Death is not a distant abstraction. It is present in every moment. And when you truly internalize this, something shifts. Petty grievances dissolve. Why hold a grudge when your time is so short? Procrastination becomes absurd. Why wait to live when living is all you have? Fear of judgment disappears. Why care what strangers think when all of you will be dust soon enough? In a short time, you will be ashes, or a skeleton, and a name or not even a name. And if a name, only a sound and an echo. Marcus meditated on death not to become depressed, but to become awake. Every emperor before him was gone. Every empire before his had fallen. The universe did not need him. It does not need any of us. And that is precisely what makes this moment precious. We act as though we have infinite time. We defer our dreams. We postpone difficult conversations. We assume there will always be another chance. There will not. The Stoics kept skulls on their desks as reminders. They began each morning imagining it could be their last. Not as doom, but as focus. What matters today? What would you regret leaving undone? Who would you call? What would you say? Death is the compass that points to meaning. When you remember you will die, you remember how to live. Marcus Aurelius has been gone for almost 2,000 years. His empire crumbled centuries ago. Every problem he faced has been forgotten. But his words remain. Because they were never about Rome. They were about being human. Control what you can. Release your ego. Transform obstacles into fuel. Remember your mortality. These are not ancient ideas. They are timeless ones. And they are perhaps more urgent now than they have ever been. We did not forget these lessons because they failed us. We forgot them because they require work. Because they offer no shortcuts. Because they demand that we take full responsibility for our own lives. But the path remains open. If you found something valuable here, there are more conversations like this to come. Forgotten wisdom from those who faced the hardest questions and left us answers. Consider subscribing, and remember what Marcus wrote on his final night. The sun is setting, for all of us. What will you do with the light that remains?